So far today, we've talked about constructs, or these complex combinations of thoughts, feelings, behaviors, culture. We've talked about how we can measure attitudes, knowledge, behavior, and results when we're looking at human outcomes. The next thing we're going to look at is the importance of surveys being reliable and valid. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about surveys today, and the main reason is that surveys are kind of like the go-to way of measuring human outcomes in organizations, and they're also just a ubiquitous part of our life these days. At work, at school, online, we get surveys all the time, and so I think it's really useful to understand kind of what's going on behind the scenes with surveys and how you differentiate a good survey from a bad survey. When we look at surveys and we try to assess them as a good survey or a bad survey, we assess them on two major criteria. The first is reliability, and the second is validity. Reliability is how consistent your measurement is. So imagine you just ordered the new smart scale from Amazon, and you get it and you put it down on your bathroom floor, and you're like, all right, I'm going to test this thing out. And you step on the scale and it tells you weigh 150 pounds. And you're like, well, that doesn't seem right. So you step off and you step right back on. This time it tells you weigh 250 pounds. And you're like, yeah, that doesn't seem right either. So you get off and you get back on again. And now it tells you weigh 75 pounds. Are you going to believe that scale? No, because it's not consistently measuring you, right? It's not giving you a consistent number. That's what reliability is. That's all reliability really is. It's, are we measuring something consistently with our survey? And there are three major types of reliability that we're going to talk about today quickly. Test, retest reliability, inter-rater reliability, and inter-item reliability. Test, retest is what I just described. It's consistency in test scores across time. Every time I get on the scale, am I getting the same response? Am I getting a consistent response about how much I weigh? The problem with using test-retest reliability is that the thing that we're measuring, we're often hoping that it will change, right? If we develop a job satisfaction survey, we're probably doing that because we want to improve job satisfaction. We want to improve organizational commitment. And so it's difficult to use test-retest to establish the reliability of those surveys because we want them to change. So there are other ways of measuring reliability. One way is called inter-rater reliability, and this is essentially the main idea behind 360s. Inter-rater reliability is when you get multiple people to measure something, and hopefully you're getting pretty consistent scores across all the different raters. So yeah, in 360s we do this. It's not just your supervisor's impression of your job performance, it's your coworkers, it's your clients, and we're getting all these different perspectives on you, and hopefully there's some consistency in how people see you and your job performance. This is how the Olympics does it with like gymnastics and diving and stuff, right? And we all know it's pretty hard to get consistent scores across people because people have political reasons for voting the way they vote. We see that in the Olympics where people favor their own country. And of course, we see this in organizations too, where raters are motivated to rate employees as high or low depending on what they want out of it. The last type of reliability that we'll talk about is inter-item reliability. And this is consistency across answers. So within the survey, are you answering in a consistent way? This is essentially the most popular way to measure reliability because it's really easy to do. I just have to have a person take the test once and then I correlate all their answers together. This is why surveys ask you the same question 3 times in different ways. So if we're taking a job satisfaction survey, you might see questions like this. My job is satisfying. I am satisfied with my job. I experience satisfaction from my job. Those are all just 3 different rewordings of the same question. If we have strong inter-item reliability, then it's going to look like this. People are answering consistently across all of the items. If we see something like this, there's obviously a problem with the survey because someone should not be answering these questions so vastly differently if their job satisfaction is at a consistent level. And so that's why surveys ask you the same question 3 times. And that's one way to establish reliability, consistency in answers. So that's reliability. Reliability is consistency and measurement. The other criteria we use to assess surveys is validity. So validity is an incredibly complex topic, and we could literally spend not just an entire semester talking about validity, we could spend an entire year talking about it. I've taken multiple graduate level courses just on validity. So take everything I say with a grain of salt, realizing that this is a very superficial description of it. But essentially, one way to think of validity is, does our survey actually predict something meaningful? So if we think of like an IQ test, if I give you an IQ test, that is a valid test because it can predict a lot of really important outcomes. IQ predicts educational performance, which makes sense, right? IQ is also the best predictor of job performance across jobs, that more intelligent people have higher job performance across jobs than less intelligent people. And finally, IQ predicts maybe the most important outcome, which is longevity. The higher your IQ, the longer your predicted lifespan. This is partially because people who are smarter are better at their jobs, and so they make more money, and so they live longer. It's also because since they're smarter, they make better health decisions in regard to like diet, smoking, and exercise. And also, there's a positive correlation between reaction time and intelligence. So smarter people are less likely to get in accidents because they actually have faster reaction time than less intelligent people. And that's one of the reasons we call less intelligent people slow, because they're literally slow. So these are all really important outcomes. And so we can say that IQ is a valid test because it predicts these important outcomes. If we give a survey and we ask like an organizational commitment question, I am committed to staying at this organization, we would expect that to predict who actually stays and who actually leaves. If you answer that you strongly agree with this question and then you quit 2 weeks later, we're not capturing the construct, organizational commitment. We're not capturing it very well in our survey. And so our surveys need to be able to predict something that's meaningful. So we assess our surveys with two different criteria: reliability, which is consistency in test scores, and validity, which is can we predict something meaningful. Reliability is necessary but not sufficient for validity. If I don't have reliability, I can't have validity. If I'm not measuring something consistently, then I can't use it to predict anything meaningful. But just because I'm measuring something consistently doesn't mean that I actually am predicting something meaningful. Your horoscope sign is incredibly consistent, right? It does not change across your lifespan. We are measuring that with very high reliability, and yet it doesn't have validity. It's not predicting anything meaningful.